Welcome to our next episode of Grow. We speak with a remarkable young woman who is an incredible leader in business, Ava Hines, who's ridden the real estate roller coaster from the tender age of 16.
Life was so great. At the same time, though, I probably didn't deal with what had happened from being 16 to 18.
She grew up in a small mining town which experienced the boom and bust of the real estate cycle.
In the mining boom and miles started to end and all of the property prices reducing so drastically, obviously financial hardship affected the entire town and my family included. We had 250 vacant properties. There's no one to rent them, and you were lucky if you did get a tenant, it was maybe $100 a week.
And she tells us how empathy and resilience have been the backbone of her business.
We get to choose whether we let those things dictate the next steps for us or we decide, and we get to choose how we move through life. It might be bad, it might suck, but there's obviously an importance of making sure you process these things, take care of yourself, but move forward in the best way possible.
I would like to welcome today is our beautiful woman in leadership, Ava Hines from Property Management. Ava, thank you for being with us today. So, Ava, I'm just going to take you back to that time when you were 16. Can you share a little bit with us about how you suddenly found your perfect world turned upside down?
Yeah, I was, happy. Everything was well. It was high school. It's Miles, small town. You're very close with your friends. There's not much to do. So, friendships are obviously a big part of that. But just before my 16th birthday, in the mining boom and Miles started to end, and so the property market started to tank, and that obviously impacted my parents. And
just to put a little bit of context into this as well for anyone who doesn't know Miles is a mining town, and Ava, you saw people become overnight millionaires in Miles because the mining boom happened. Everyone came in, suddenly people were putting their life savings into property, taking the biggest gamble of their lives. And then overnight, the rug was pulled from under their feet when the mining companies just left town, and your family was left financially devastated, and it ended up breaking your family's whole world apart.
Yeah, so obviously with the mining industry, a lot of FIFO workers were in the area. A lot of the homes were being rented for $1,500 a week, which is unheard of in Miles. I mean, there's nothing there. So without that income anymore and all of the property prices reducing so drastically, obviously financial hardship affected the entire town and my family included. But in addition to that, my dad confided in me that he was no longer going to continue the marriage with my mum. My mum also had a dependency on alcohol. So shortly after that, ended up on life support. And that was the start to my year 12. So it was, it was traumatizing, to be honest. It was a big year.
And Ava, you sit here and smile when this is really, such an incredible thing that you went through. And not only did this happen, but Ava ended up becoming a mother to her three siblings, and you actually all moved in together, and you actually became the mother and the father and raised them. And you actually then became the breadwinner as well because you went out to work.
Yeah, so because my mum was unwell for some time, we were no longer in the family home. My dad had a partner soon after, so they spent a lot of time together, and my mum obviously needed certain care, so she was on her own in another unit as well. So it was just me and my brothers, really. And yeah, I mean, mum and dad obviously still took care of us, but it was
pretty tough.
Yeah, it was, I think, expected of me being the eldest to just make the household sort of run and make sure the little ones got to school and things like that. So yeah, it was very big.
And so begins Ava's journey into property management. And if anyone's ever worked in property management, and I certainly have the greatest respect for property managers, it's a job that I honestly do not know how you cope with the demands and the pressures of property management. So I just want to take you through that vision of Ava, because here is Ava. She's a 16-year-old. Her whole world has just fallen apart. The family has just lost everything, and she takes a job as a receptionist in the little country real estate agency. And in that agency, every single person who worked in that agency had actually lost their own life savings. So they couldn't deal with the pressure of having to speak with their clients every day. And Ava was the receptionist. So Ava, take us a little bit on that journey of what happened to you and how that really was the platform for you becoming a leader today in business.
It was just devastation, I suppose. And I could see that my family was impacted, my colleagues were impacted, and that's stressful. One phone call from an angry landlord who's so, up to their eyeballs in debt and there's no income coming in at all. So, it's hard for them to deal with it because they're experiencing it themselves. But we had 250 vacant properties. And there's no one to rent them. And you were lucky if you did get a tenant, it was maybe $100 a week. So, all of these clients are calling, asking, well, what are you going to do to rent my place? How can I get it leased? And they're offering iPads and weeks of rent and all these different things to make their properties more attractive. But being the receptionist, little baby 16-year-old Ava, I sort of got sick of putting those calls to the PMs and saying, I'm so sorry, she's not available. I can't put the call through. I'll have to get back to you. And so I just started dealing with it. I got sick of being abused mostly, but at the same time, I wanted to help. I understood the situation, I remember there was one particular client, Frank, who rang probably every single day and was so aggressive on the phone all the time. And I just thought, you know what, I'm going to Facebook you. I'm going to see what you're all about. And I did. And all I found was just this sweet, wholesome picture of a dad with his kids, And that really just put into perspective that it's not an angry voice on the phone. It's a real human being. Their life has been impacted in a way that I couldn't even understand, let alone all of these other clients also calling on such a regular basis, wanting the same thing. So, yeah, I think that really gave me a crash course in baptism by fire into conflict resolution and compassion and resilience as well. Obviously, our community rallied together to support all of the locals, but also being resilient and being able to take that confrontation but then work through it and hopefully get to some resolution.
So, Ava, you quickly and clearly advanced up the ranks in that agency. And, for someone of such an incredibly young age, that is an enormous amount of pressure for anyone of that age to be dealing with a family that's fallen apart, being the main carer for her own children, as well as dealing with all of the pressures of work. It's absolutely remarkable. So, Ava, you decided to finally take a holiday and you went to Melbourne. And one of the things that's very, very difficult for anyone in life is to have the courage to step out of our comfort zone, the courage to be true to ourselves and put ourselves first and be selfish. And you were down in Melbourne and you had time away, time to think, and you had an epiphany that changed your life. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I just thought, I needed a break. Obviously, I hadn't been on a holiday for such a long time. And just in Melbourne, I realised how big the world really is and how there is so much more that could be here for me. And so I had grandparents in Melbourne, which was a good connection. At least I had someone to go to. And yeah, I decided to move from Miles and move to Melbourne.
Which is absolutely incredible. But, it would have been a very tough decision to make. So the thing that was very interesting is that Ava went with a plan. So she thought about, we were chatting about this the other day, and I'm just going to recap on what we said. So Ava made a decision. She thought, I'm going to go with a plan. What do I want? I want to live on my own for the first time in my life. I want to rent a little one-bedroom apartment, and I want to earn a certain amount of money so that I can have life for myself. And it's when you actually stopped and took time that it all really hit you, and it led to a very personal journey and something that you're quite comfortable in sharing, that you did almost have a breakdown. But rather than listening to the doctors and popping a pill, you actually, yet again, were resourceful, one of your greatest strengths. Tell us a little bit about that incredible journey.
Yeah, so I moved to Melbourne. I had doubled my income, halved the amount of stress and things that I had to deal with, and I felt amazing. Life was so great. At the same time, though, I probably didn't deal with what had happened from being 16 to 18, and it started to catch up with me, and I, started to obviously have some issues with mental health. And on my 19th birthday, I got diagnosed with depression. And I remember sitting in the car park waiting for a friend to pick me up, looking at this prescription for an antidepressant in my hand, and I sobbed for like 2 days. And not that I was sad about being depressed, but it was real. And this prescription was proof now that something is actually wrong. And I need obviously help to get out of this. But like Christine mentioned, I didn't want to rely on just this antidepressant to really carry me through that. I thought I'm just going to do everything else I can. So I'm still 19, living week to week, eating mac and cheese, but I'm buying frozen vegetables and trying to eat them and taking a multivitamin and going on a walk and making sure I'm drinking my water and having sleepy teas and all these things to try and just absolutely smash every avenue I possibly could to feel better. But that obviously started a process of research and learning and self-discovery and learning the balance of that. It's obviously taking care of your mind, but also taking care of your body and how they go together. And it just really kick-started probably the best 5 years of my life so far. It changed me so much from 19 to sort of 23. I had so much growth in that time and learnt so much, and really learnt that it's really important to take care of yourself no matter what's happening.
I think that's a really incredible point as well, because, I know, having obviously had a younger daughter, and there are a lot of mums in the room and a lot of people in the room. That stage of life between 19 to 23 can be quite a significant stage of life for women, where they're looking for their identity and wondering who they are and what their future is. And I guess your ability to be self-effacing and realise so young in life that life is about balance, that's probably been a very valuable foundation for you today, and one that then led you to take the next step. So tell us a little bit about then moving from Melbourne and moving back here to Brisbane and becoming part of the Ray White Collective.
Yeah, so it was my 4th year in Melbourne by now, and COVID obviously hit. And so I was through the 9 months of lockdown in Melbourne working from home. And I always knew I was coming back to Queensland at some point because my family's here. And obviously being forced, not being able to see them for such a long time, I thought, well, maybe now's time. As soon as the borders open up, we'll scoot back to Queensland. And I remember doing a video interview with Kat and Bree, actually, with my laptop propped up on a shoebox probably in my bedroom, and Hazley even popped his head in. And yeah, got the job and moved back to Queensland, and had 2 days to set my life up before starting work again, which was probably natural for me, I suppose. It's all or nothing. And yeah, it was just it was a nice relief, I suppose, coming from Melbourne after that COVID period. It was very difficult for that state, and coming back to sunny Queensland, being back with family again, being back with old friends, and being able to renew and strengthen those connections again. So it was a really good time.
Hazley often refers to the buckets of success, and, it sounds to me like you have really discovered very early on what is important in life, to be empowered financially, to also look after your health, to nurture your relationships with family and friends. What would you say, to many young women, what does International Women's Day mean to you, and what powerful message would you like to leave with the women of the room today?
International Women's Day for me specifically probably is just a chance to reflect and be grateful for the strong relationships I have with women in my life. I didn't really understand probably until a few years ago how important they are and how much love and support and guidance we receive from the women in our life. And it's not just family, it's all the women we get to choose. And, we can be strong and independent on our own, but we also have strength in numbers. And I'm so proud I get to be part of the Girl Gang. And my message would be that there's always going to be things in life that happen and you think, well, why me? What did I do to deserve this? And how could that happen to me? But we get to choose whether we let those things dictate the next steps for us, or we decide. We get to be who we want to be, where we want to be, and we get to choose how we move through life. And so it might be bad, it might suck, but, you know, there's obviously an importance of making sure you process these things, take care of yourself, but move forward in the best way possible.
Ava, thank you so much. We've got a little something from the team to say thank you so much for today, and so thank you for such an inspiring presentation.